How would the Democrat on the Armed Services Committee, how would he know to write Danielle Hegseth, the ex-sister-in-law, unless he was tipped off, either by her or somebody else? Maybe Danielle Hegseth didn't want to do an affidavit, but maybe a friend of hers who she'd spoken to, or somebody in the media who she'd spoken to, went to the chairman of the committee, or went to Schumer, or one of these Democrats and said, this Danielle Hegseth, you need to get information from her. And maybe she said, I can give you information. Who knows? But the Democrats on the committee were involved in it. This wasn't just an earnest inquiry. They were very specific. They went right to her. They did it on Saturday. They did it so they could spring it the day after the inauguration. He already was voted out of the committee, 14-13 along party lines. And they're trying, obviously, to kneecap him. So how do you have a story when an ex-sister-in-law signs an affidavit saying that the ex-wife was threatened, was abused, she told her that, and the ex-wife says it's not true? Why is that a news story? I want to get right to this. This effort to destroy Pete Hegseth is ongoing, and I want to talk about how this works after we play the NBC News hit on him the other day. And I want to help unravel this for you to show you how Washington tries to destroy people that they target. I lived through it with Robert Bork when I was at the Department of Justice, Clarence Thomas, where our landmark legal foundation helped the fight to get him confirmed. We all saw it with Kavanaugh, and now you're seeing it with Hegseth. You'll probably see some of it with Kash Patel as well. But the sleaziness, the complete evil nature of Chuck Schumer, who's behind the whole thing, and the hatchet men that he has chosen to attack Hegseth on and off this committee, how they coordinate with the press, how they coordinate with disgruntled relatives who hate Trump and hate Hegseth and lie. We're going to get into this, but let's watch the report, and then I want to run from that.
The allegations so far are in this affidavit that are being viewed by senators. They detail potential abuse that Samantha Hegseth experienced at the hands of Pete Hegseth. I want to be clear that we were in contact with Samantha, who is, of course, the second wife of Pete Hegseth, his ex-wife, who said that she has not experienced physical abuse at the...
Stop. Shouldn't that be the end of it? His ex-wife, with whom he has 3 children in joint custody, said she did not experience physical abuse and physical threats from Pete Hegseth. So now we have an affidavit from whom? From the ex-wife of Pete Hegseth's brother, a former sister-in-law. And I want to get into the timing of this whole thing. So the ex-wife, with whom he has 3 children, says, no, that never happened. But the ex-sister-in-law, who divorced from Hegseth's brother, or he from her, either way, she signs an affidavit. I want to get into this. Watch. Go.
Of her ex-husband, who is now days away potentially from being confirmed by the Senate to be Trump's Secretary of Defense. It's a major position. There were questions about his qualification before all of these allegations came to light. We've been working on this for weeks. You'll remember that in his confirmation hearing last Tuesday, there was a moment in which the Republican chairman, Roger Wicker, entered into the record a document from his divorce with Samantha Hegseth in which both of them signed that they were not victims of any domestic abuse. In this case now, with the signed affidavit by Samantha Hegseth and Pete Hegseth's former sister-in-law, Danielle, she says that Samantha had told her that during the course of the marriage, Pete Hegseth would act in a way toward her that made her fear for her safety. Now, this is so fast developing. I want to tell you that Reid, who is the top Democrat on the Senate Armed Services Committee that has been handling his nomination, had sent a letter to Danielle Hegseth over the weekend asking her to detail any instances of abuse or any threatening behavior that she experienced. She says, by the way, in this signed affidavit, signed by her on the record that is currently being reviewed by senators, that she knows of some of these allegations to be true because of her personal interactions with Pete Hegseth, who she described as aggressive.
Now let's break this down. This is an ex-wife with whom he had 3 children. She said he was not abusive, not violent, didn't threaten her. 3 children. Who has custody of the 3 children? They have joint custody. A judge or magistrate, depending on what county and what state you're in, is not going to give joint custody to children if one of the parents is violent or abusive or threatens violence. In this case, they have joint custody, which means they sought joint custody. They have a confidentiality agreement because they don't want all their laundry in the public. The Democrats are desperate to get the laundry in the public. They're desperate to destroy what's left of the relationship between the ex-wife and Pete, and they're going to destroy the future of these three kids by continuing to pursue this, and they don't care because Schumer is the evil force behind this. He's got Jack Reed, the chairman of this committee, other committee members. And look how preposterous this is. So now you have an ex-sister-in-law who says she knows of occasions because his ex-wife told her that. The ex-wife says, not true. Nothing of this sort ever happened. And by the way, NBC and committee and FBI and everybody else, she says, leave me and my family alone. I'm not getting involved in this, because she obviously knows and has been advised by Bright Counsel, who's saying they're trying to drag you into this, the family into this. They want the confidentiality agreement. You know, for all we know in that confidentiality agreement, there's issues related to the ex-wife, which Pete isn't talking about. And neither of them want the confidentiality agreement released. I'm not saying there are. I'm saying who knows? But it's all behind them now. He's moved on. She's moved on. He has a new wife. He has additional children. He has 7 children in toto. He treats them all as his beautiful children. He has a wonderful marriage, by all accounts, right now. And they don't care. Now, remember, this is a position for Secretary of Defense. Now, I want to show you how this is an inside job by the Democrats. It's a complete setup, because this is what they do. You heard her say the letter went out to this Danielle, the ex-sister-in-law who's making the accusations, over the weekend. It went out Saturday. And it lists a number of things. Do you know of any allegations whatsoever of threats, of abuses, of violence, and things of that sort? So let's step back. How would the Democrat on the Armed Services Committee, remember, they're in the minority, how would he know to write Danielle Hegseth, the ex-sister-in-law, unless he was tipped off, either by her or somebody else? Maybe Danielle Hegseth didn't want to do an affidavit, but maybe a friend of hers who she'd spoken to, or somebody in the media who she'd spoken to, went to the chairman of the committee, or went to Schumer, or one of these Democrats, and said, this Danielle Hegseth, you need to get information from her. Or maybe she said, I can give you information. Who knows? But the Democrats on the committee were involved in it. This wasn't just an earnest inquiry or a rational inquiry. They were very specific. They went right to her. They did it on Saturday. They did it so they could spring it the day after the inauguration. He already was voted out of the committee, 14-13 along party lines. And they're trying, obviously, to kneecap him. So how do you have a story when an ex-sister-in-law signs an affidavit saying that the ex-wife was threatened, was abused, she told her that, and the ex-wife says it's not true? Why is that a news story?
For all this and much more, sign up for Levin TV.